This is AV SuperFriends Perspectives, a collection of interviews, discussions, and presentations from conferences, trade shows, and events that just don't fit either of the other two shows. Some are long, some are short, but they'll all have valuable insights, useful information, or just good conversation with thought leaders and subject matter experts. And now, the AV SuperFriends.
All right, here we are, day 24. NWMET 2025. It's been a long show. We have some guests today. Who do we have? We have Mr.
Mike Pedersen from Iowa State University.
And
Shaun Hayes with Utah Tech University.
Nice.
And Larry, you're normally here, so I'm not going to introduce you.
Don't matter.
You're just along for the ride.
So, how have you all enjoyed the conference so far?
Yeah, this has been really great. This is my first time here, and
you're a first-timer.
Yes, I am a first-timer.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, first time here. Really enjoying it. Lots of good sessions, lots of good networking. I've talked to a lot of people. The really direct focus to higher ed has been really great. So
since it's your first time, why did you choose to come to this conference?
Okay, a couple of reasons. So, I'm at a little bit smaller university, so I don't always get to travel as much as I'd like to. Big reason is just hearing just over and over and over again, you got to go to NWMET. Mm-hmm. So, that finally happened. And then just this particular year, usually I always put my travel dollars to InfoComm. Had had something I had to plan a year ago that wound up falling right at that same time. So, I put my dollars towards this, and I've really enjoyed it.
Nice. Yeah, often we've heard people say that it's the more targeted version of the quality conversations you get at InfoComm without as much background noise and not walking around nearly as much. Right, Mike, you've been here before.
Yeah, this is my second time.
Right, you were here. You were in Oregon last year.
Yeah,
when you were there.
Yeah.
Was there anything specific you came here targeting, wanting to see? Were there conversations with folks you wanted to have? Was there some secret agenda you were carrying from the Midwest?
Nothing in particular, right? I mean, it's just I always find getting with my peers and rubbing shoulders with them, I always learn something along the way. And so, and I really, this is a really good sized show. It's fairly intimate. It reminds me a little bit of MCUAV in the Midwest kind of version of this. It's a little bit bigger than that show, but it's still it's hired focused. It's my peers.
It's all the same problems.
Yep.
People that you're trying to solve them with.
Yeah, it's always good to see that you're not the only one with those problems.
It's cathartic in that way.
It's my second year as well, Mike, and after coming last year, even though I'm from North Carolina, this is a heck of a travel trip for me. It's still my favorite conference of the year. I still like this one the best. I think it's because of the size, because of how focused it is to what we do, and that all the manufacturers are sending people who understand what we do. Where InfoComm, it depends who you're talking to. They may understand our challenges and they may not.
This is a really good set of vendors, right? I mean, really hitting, all the key players, and you're getting really one-on-one conversations with them that you just wouldn't get at a show like InfoComm.
And what about you? Have you attended sessions?
I have.
Yeah, you hosted a session, didn't you?
I've taught 2 times.
What were the sessions you hosted for us?
I taught a session on how to play nice with your facilities team, how to befriend them, and play nice, and how to make for better capital projects.
Right.
So, talked about that, and then I talked about using human factors concepts to make better user interfaces.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, I actually attended that one and really enjoyed that. I see so much bad UI, UX design in classrooms where even as an AV professional, I'm standing in front of a control panel thinking, I can't use this. How do we expect a person whose entire focus is to disseminate the information inside of their head to their class is going to use this? And I really liked what you were showing there, making the buttons simple, making them make absolute sense about that without knowing anything about what you're looking at. The button tells you what it's supposed to do and how you expect it to work. And that's always so important to me because I'm focusing so hard on trying to prevent my professors from looking stupid in front of their class.
Right. Yeah. They're supposed to be like the professionals on anything that happens, including operations of the classroom, know everybody's background story about everything, know all the content and how every system at the university works at all times.
I had an instructional designer once tell me that a new class will make a judgment about the professor within like the first 5 minutes of the semester.
Oh, for sure.
And so, like, that's their one shot to say, for the class to determine whether they're worth listening to or not. And if they're spending that time trying to figure out a convoluted button,
and there's real anxiety around that, right? And so, and I'm not sure how each of your universities do it, but we have a phone, and sometimes I tell my students that you may not even be there to solve a problem. You may be there just as a point of contact so that an instructor does not look stupid while they work their way through what it is.
Yes.
To reduce those anxieties, to allow that instructor to be the professional as they need to be and perceived in the classroom.
You may be tech moral support.
Yeah, exactly. You are phoning a friend to walk through it, right? And so,
just holding their hand sometimes is all they need. Yeah, exactly.
And so I want to go back, because you mentioned, attending some sessions, coming to this, and it's a little bit different, right? We talked about the difference between like InfoComm and here, where oftentimes the bigger shows, it feels like it's about the sales of the stuff. Let me show you some things. Can you buy this? How would this work for you? Or that. Where when you come to these smaller regional events, it's really about how do you solve for the whatever the thing is, and all of your cohort working towards solution finding, right? And even if you look at the vendors here, it doesn't feel heavily sales focused.
No,
it feels like solutions oriented.
Right.
And it's a different vibe. And I'm just kind of curious if am I only feeling, or do you kind of get that same sense?
Oh, I definitely get that sense, right? I'm finding that they're asking me as many questions about what my needs and problems are as I'm asking them about their stuff, right? And that's perfect.
Well, and I've even noticed a lot of the vendors have sent their technical engineers, not necessarily their salespeople, to this one, because they know we care about the nuts and bolts. We're a lot of us are budget strapped. We're gonna we're not necessarily going to make a decision on whether we're buying something today, no matter what you tell me.
Right. And so I think you look at that, and they're coming to the table as an advocate for you, right? And then looking around the room, and in the sessions we have, that part of the value is you're getting the how we did it, right? And it's not just, go buy this thing. This is how we solved a problem. Is this of interest to you? And many of the presenters, even in the rooms, are asking, would it work for you? What other problems have you guys had? This is how I solved it. But it often kind of sparks a larger conversation with the people in the room. And it's not just the presenters on display. Everybody in the room is on display. It's a different angle, I feel, than more like the larger venue kind of take on these things.
Yeah, I've noticed that a lot, that after the presentations, there'll be conversations afterwards, right out of the room.
Absolutely.
Where people are going up to the presenters or to each other, expanding on the presentation almost. Like, okay, there should be a part 2 now. This is how it's worked elsewhere.
So, and you taught tech, you said this is your first time.
Yes.
I'm always curious, you said you're a smaller school. What are kind of your topics and problems that seem to be the preeminent thing right now? What are you struggling with the most?
I mean, obviously, the one we all struggle with is funding, but specifically revolving around how, we were like a lot of universities, we were able to take a really big advantage of COVID funding, and, we went from a AV system that was completely falling apart to 100% refresh, everything standardized, everything is got a plan, and moving forward. However, we're now really in the problem of, it's nice now, how do I keep it nice?
How do you sustain that?
Right. And the sustainability is probably our largest problem. And that's one that we're really struggling to find a solution on right now, because it's they've never had proper enterprise equipment where I'm at, and so I was really opening a lot of people's eyes on what enterprise equipment cost and how that benefits our students. But if we don't have the money, we don't have the money.
Right.
Yeah, and that's definitely going to be the same struggle a lot of schools feel, because even those who had a plan in place, used the money to do upgrades of equipment that wasn't typically part of the budget, and now it is.
Right.
And has that changed given the current financial crisis?
And I think that thread has been woven through here almost in every conversation we've had. There seems to be this sense of like we have to become somehow, some way more financially capable to navigate this. And I think there is some comfort in knowing that everybody's trying to figure that out, right? We're all in this. It's like we're all going to rise and fall together. And I think that this conference shows you that everybody in this room is an advocate for you, just as you are an advocate for them. And I think it's a good community to be a part of.
Well, and I think definitely, being a smaller, school is that, again, like a lot of people, we also have the same problem with like personnel and just, being kind of, a team of one. And, however, though we are growing, we're one of the fastest growing institutions in the state of Utah, but our personnel to handle that isn't growing with that, so that's going to become a challenge very quickly for us.
Yeah, I mean the personnel thing. I mean that's my biggest challenge right now. Funding is always a challenge, but honestly, I'm finding it easier to find those capital funds than I am to find the OpEx funds for salary right now.
People are expensive,
and and I'm trying to follow Chris Decter's advice and get my full-time programmer and full-time project manager hired, and I'm struggling to get that done right now. But we're going to see if we can get it done.
Yeah, I think the resource struggle for me has changed as well. It's no longer the resource of getting the equipment. Now it's getting the time to install the number of systems I could do versus what's possible in the summer.
Yeah. It's balancing all those things and seeing other voices of people who are going through those similar issues with you. It's super important. And then not just thinking you have to be the end-all, be-all, biggest funded behemoth school in the room, that there are other universities that have come up with clever ways to meet those ends, and you kind of learn, these are good comparables. This is how they solve that. I think having the ability to have the one-on-one conversations and dig in and say, I had a solution for you. I met somebody yesterday on the tour, and we talked about funding. Right, Mike? We talked about in the Maker Lab, and he was like thinking of clever ways that he could go after and getting library funding. And I had a really good conversation afterwards about how does he frame his asks, and how do where are you trying to get your money, and what is your audience, and gave him some good tactics on it. I think it's great to share those different ways with all these different people, and just to see how open people are to solving the problem. I think it's a great atmosphere for people to kind of dig into that.
Yeah.
Well, anything else you're kind of looking forward to here? It's been a long 3 months of this show, and so anything specific or any conversations you got to get in before you're kind of heading out?
Well, I definitely want to have a few more conversations with a few folks about user experience. Definitely a few folks that sounded like they had some interesting problems that I think I have solutions to. And then, of course, it sounds like this evening we're about to have a load of fun in our closing event there. And
you haven't been to the auction yet?
I have not been to the auction.
It's a hoot.
And I have done my best to get as many Met bucks as I can.
There's never enough.
There's not enough.
Never enough Met bucks.
Bid early is all I have to say. Don't wait for the big things at the end.
Don't wait for the big things.
Yeah, it gets frantic and heated and aggressive at times.
If you wait for the big things, you better have lots of really close
big
friends.
bucks.
Yes.
Yeah, you're going to see.
There will be a
Can
pool.
I count the two of you as friends?
I have 0 bucks, but yes.
Yes, pick your teams and start coordinating early. And so, awesome. Well, guys, great to have you on. Thanks for kind of coming on and chatting about your experience in Northwest Met. Come back again at some point, and we'll either do this online or we'll see you here next year again, or wherever we're going. I think we're coming to Utah.
Hey, so we'll be close to where I am. So thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, guys.
Well, that wraps up another episode of AV SuperFriends Perspectives. If you have a perspective to share, you can contact us with questions, topic ideas, or general complaints at mailbag@avsuperfriends.com.
Nice work, everyone. Sharp broadcast. Really good. Everyone on the floor as well. Really a lot of hustle. I liked it.
The opinions expressed by the AV SuperFriends are solely those of the individuals and do not represent their respective institutions, organizations, companies, or clients.